Hi, everyone. Ray here to talk about staff training for the PSAT 8-9 and the PSAT 10, which is coming up next Wednesday, April 13th. So, next Wednesday, April 13th, we're going to test all of the freshmen with the PSAT 8-9, and we're going to test all of the sophomores with the PSAT 10, and as well as the juniors with the SAT. And because we're testing all of these students, we're actually going to use two large venues for the PSAT 8-9 and the 10. We're going to use the field house and the main gym because, quite honestly, we are running out of classrooms. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule. The 13th begins with PLCs from about 7:45 to 8:30 a.m. And when your PLCs are done, we'd simply ask that you report to your specific testing areas. So the PSAT 8-9 is going to be in the field house, and the PSAT 10 is going to be in the main gym. Those tests will run from about 8:45 when the students are asked to come until 12 o'clock if it's the 8-9 and about 12:15 if it's the 10. We have already informed all of the students via email and letter to themselves as well as their parents that first off, that next Wednesday is a regular start day. It's not a flex start day. Number two, what venue they're supposed to go to, so the 8-9 or the 10, and where those rooms are. And thirdly, we've let them know where their seats are in those specific areas. So your general duties in these large venues are going to be to help the kids find their seat, find their place, pass out a lot of material, ultimately collect all that material, and lastly, just generally supervise them while they're testing, make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do, and answer all the questions that they might have as they go through their testing. So when the kids come into the room, first thing, they can't have anything at their desk other than their pencils, their calculators, and their ID. All right, driver's license or school ID works. Anything else, so food and even water, backpacks, cell phones need to be off to the sides of the room, so as far away from the kids as can possibly be. Um, they can access food when there are breaks. There are a couple of breaks during the testing. They should not be accessing their cell phones. If you see them going for their phones, we just have to ask them, please, put your phones away. You can use them after the test is done. When we do talk about phones, we have to ask them to please turn them all the way off, not just silence them, because even when they're silenced, alarms can still go off. And believe me, there still might be a phone that goes off during testing. If that happens, we just want to silence it right away. And you're going to be talking ultimately with your room readers or Eric in headquarters about what to do when that happens. When the kids come and sit down, we're going to want their ID out on the desk so we can see who they are because we have to recognize them or get an ID recognition of the child. And then we're going to need a lot of help ultimately seating them and taking attendance. All right. That we have, 350 plus students in each of these large venues. So there'll be a bunch of kids not knowing where to go. And we'll have seating charts all around and they've been emailed where their seats are, but they're still going to need a lot of help. And all of you will have rosters with the kids' names and where they're supposed to sit. So that's helping them to get situated right away. Um, we also ask when they get there, aside from their IDs, is they also put out their calculator on the desk, and that's so that we can see who has a calculator. If they don't have a calculator, we have a limited supply. And they'll be at the front of each of the testing rooms. And before the test begins, we would ask that you once we've identified the kid and checked them in, that you take their ID and bring it up to the front and exchange it for a calculator. We keep the ID. Calculator goes to the kid, and they can use the calculator for the calculator part, which is test number 4, and only test number 4. And after the test, they return the calculator. We give them their ID. There is a math no calculator part. That's test number 3. But after test number 4, they can return that calculator. They get their ID back. We only have a limited supply, so if we run out, we run out. We are asking all of our students to bring their calculators. To distribute the test books, our rooms are going to need a lot of help here. So the answer sheets will be distributed on the desk when the kids come in. That's how they know where to sit. But the test books will not. So your room readers will sort of prompt us along when it's time to pass out the books. And we're going to pass them out. We have the rooms sort of sectioned by quads. So, quad 1 will get these specific books, quad 2, quad 3, quad 4. And there'll be several people that have to help pass out the books. And we pass them out sort of in a serpentine way, and they'll tell you how that's going to happen. If a student is not present, we don't put a test book down. We skip them. Okay. Um, and ultimately, on our attendance sheets, we're going to have to record the book number for each student. So as you can imagine, we have 15 to 20 people in each large venue. So we're going to be working in 2 and 3 person teams to pass out the book, make sure that the book number is recorded, and snake our way through the rooms. The kids do have to fill out information on their answer sheet. They have a sticker with information with their name on it, but the directions still ask us to record information. So part of the job of the supervisors in the room is to make sure that the kids are writing in what they're supposed to write in and still bubbling in everything as well. There is a part that asks for their ID numbers, and that's the state of Illinois ID numbers, not their LHS ID numbers. And their state of Illinois ID numbers can be found actually on their label, on their testing label. In terms of sharing responsibilities, like I said earlier, a lot of help going to be needed to get the kids in, get them situated, make sure they have their supplies all out, and to really just get the whole thing started. Once the test gets going, the room readers are going to be reading the actual directions as well as helping with the timing and recording the timing. So your job's going to be a lot of supervision, helping kids get supplies that they need, and just answering questions. Once the testing gets going, that's when we can share responsibilities. We don't need everyone in the room the entire time. And your room readers, Ole Stevens is going to be reading in the field house for the PSAT 8-9, and Mike Chalipsky is going to be reading in the main gym for the PSAT 10. They'll work with each of their teams to determine how many people they need in the room, and how to partner people up so that one person can be in the room and one person can be in a break and then switch. If there are any irregularities, you're going to work with your room readers. So you're going to work with Oli and Mike, and ultimately with Eric, to determine what happens. Okay. In past practice, the biggest irregularities we've had are sometimes a cell phone going off. We silence it immediately and then keep testing. Or sometimes we get kids with some wandering eyes looking at the tests, other people's tests. And if that's the case, the first and foremost, we can go up to them and very quietly but still firmly say, hey, please keep your eyes on your own paper. And if it keeps happening, you're going to work with all the other people, all the other supervisors in the room to to watch the student, as well as help redirect them in the right way, so that we don't have any issues. But if something's happening and you're just not quite sure, talk to another supervisor, talk with Mike or Oli, and ultimately they'll talk with Eric about just what has to happen. Ultimately, we'll reach the end of the test, and that's where your last duties are going to be everyone to help collect and count the material, because we have to make sure we have an accurate count. Um, and once that's done, you'll be released, and we will be thanking you for all of your help during the test. So if you have any questions for PSAT 8, 9, or 10, going to want you to go talk with Eric or Diana in the front office. And on test day, work with all the people in your rooms should you have any questions. So thank you for your attention, and have a great day.